Hello, welcome to Catholic Teacher Resources, your venue for innovative and creative resources for all subject areas within our faith-based classrooms. Hi everyone, today we're going to be going over Mathletics, which is our math resource K to 8. So in order to get to that resource, we're going to come over here to the More tab and then we're going to scroll down to Mathletics, give that a click. And that's going to take us to the Mathletics website where we can enter in our username and password. If you do not have a username and password for Mathletics, please let me know. Please reach out and I can easily give that to you. There should be someone at your school site that should be able to give that to you as well. But just in case, they're in a meeting, they're busy, don't hesitate to reach out. Now that we're on the Mathletics website, let me just give you a little lay of the land here. Down at the bottom where it says print certificates, this is where weekly, ideally weekly, right? But maybe it's twice a month or once a month, you're printing these out and kind of highlighting the kids who are really excelling and doing a really great job with completing their activities and getting those 85% and above. So that's just to kind of highlight and give that special positive reinforcement for those kids. This is the login cards that you're going to need to give to your students. So go ahead and give that a click, print that out a couple times, one to send home, one to keep in their folders, and then one as a class set. Don't worry about teacher discounts. That doesn't apply to us. And then here is sign out. Feel free to, look at these anytime you have additional questions. So let's go ahead and get started under the classes tab. This tab allows you to look at students' usernames and passwords. That's always helpful. But it also allows you to give a student access to different grade level content. In order to do that, go ahead and give this button right here a click where it says new group. If you ever have a student who needs, so this is a 5th grade class, but let's pretend that there's a student here who needs 4th grade content. It could be 6th grade, doesn't matter what. You go ahead and name them anything you want. It doesn't have to need to really mean anything. Go ahead and select our country. Then go ahead and select the course, Common Core, down here. If you select one of these that says with prereqs, that means you're giving the student some of the basic foundational material from the prior grade. So for example, if I pick this one, that means that I'm giving the student not only grade 4 content, but also very foundational material from grade 3. So you can either choose that one, or if you continue to scroll, here's the regular one without those prerequisites. I always tend to go for this one because why not? So we go ahead and we add that group. Then if we determine at some point that, say, this student needs this 4th grade content, all we do is pick that student up, drag and drop him or her right into the oranges tab. And just like that, that student is given 4th grade content as soon as he or she logs in. In addition, say a few months go by, right? Let's say we really are giving the child 4th grade content. A few months go by and the child is really succeeding, really ready to go back into 5th grade. Once that happens, all you do is, again, pick that child up, drag and drop him or her right back into the original 5th grade class. And just like that, the 5th grade content that had already begun, that student can pick right back up where he or she left off. Nothing is deleted. It's just in addition. Then you can go ahead and delete this group if you don't need it any longer and come back out. Notice in order to get back out to the main screen, I'm going to hit this back button in Mathletics. That's really important. If you try to hit the back button in the browser, it's going to actually sign you out every time. So we want to try to not rely on the back button in the browser and rely on the back button in Mathletics. Okay, moving on to courses. Courses is your way of looking at, say, the math book, right? So we can see here, think of these tabs here as sort of chapters in your math book. So all the ones that say review, that's that prerequisite, right? That I was talking about earlier, some of that basic foundational material. One thing that's really nice about the way the Mathletics system works is you can choose as a teacher to show your child this chapter, say of the math book, or not. You can choose to hide it. We always kind of have those students that like to zoom through, right? And sometimes maybe they're not zooming through at the best or most accurate pace. They're kind of just going to go. And so if you feel like you have a significant number of those type of kids in your class, you can always hide certain chapters from them, or maybe flip it, maybe you're hiding chapters that the students have already completed. Once you select a chapter, you're going to see all the pieces of content here on the right. And so if you were wondering like, oh, what's decimal order? You could just select it, and there's a guide right here. You can give that a click, and then you can pull up just a one-pager on exactly what decimal order is about, some teaching hints for you in the classroom. Notice down here at the bottom, I have something easier and something harder. Sometimes students don't need a whole nother grade level, right? Sometimes it's just a little oomph in either direction. Well, when you're selecting these chapters, that's what these are. These little something easier, something harder, it's just a little nudge in either direction. Okay, let's go back out again. I'm going to hit that back button. I'm going to go back out. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next menu called Results. So let's go ahead and give that a click. That's going to take you to basically your grade book for Mathletics. It's going to be laid out in unit view first, or if you take the analogy from the previous menu in courses as chapters in the textbook, these would again be those chapters in the textbook. So in order to see how your students are doing within those units, you will go ahead and click one. Once you click one, it'll open up and you'll be able to see how the students are doing within this unit. And it'll also lay out all the individual assignments within that chapter. These little icons here at the top are just to notate that they're available on the iPad in the app. I don't think I've ever come across one that's not available, but just an FYI, that's what the icon means. You can do a lot within the results menu. First, you can see how the kids are doing. Second, you could hover over their individual grades. Now, I'm not going to do that for protection of privacy of our students, but if you were to hover over these numbers, you would be able to see how many times the students have attempted that individual activity. Another thing you can do, if you select the little upside down triangle here, if you select that, you'll come up with a menu where you can assign the activity to all the students. You can assign the activity to kids who get less than 85%. You can remove the activity, maybe you assigned it accidentally. You can get that teacher guide, which is very similar to what I showed you that a few minutes ago, where it was just a one-pager that kind of goes over what this activity details. And then you can get the preview activity, which I think is a really great resource that you can utilize in your classroom, and you can remind the kids that it's available to them. So let's go ahead and click that so you can get a feel for what that looks like. The preview activity, I think one of the best things it does is it offers unlimited practice problems. So this is the individual assignment here. This is really what the kids would be getting. So we're not going to do this because we don't want to do their actual assignment with them. But say you projected this in front of the class and you wanted to kind of go through this whole class, how they would be answering these questions. And let's say the kid forgets. Let's say the student forgets how to complete this assignment. That's when they go to this question mark right here. They click that question mark, and that will give them unlimited amounts of practice problems. And then what they could do is they could hit this little arrow, and it'll walk them through how to solve the problem step by step. And you can do this whole class, right? We can say, okay, so what's the next step? Somebody raises their hand, and then you go, okay, what's the next step? So you keep going until the kids feel really comfortable with this. And then when they're at home, and this goes for any of the activities in Mathletics, every single activity in Mathletics has a preview and has the unlimited practice problems with that question mark. So you go ahead and you continue to go through. And then what will happen is once the example finally gets to the answer, it will provide, you can continue going to another example. Okay, so here's the final answer, right? And then again, you could just keep selecting this. It'll give you unlimited amounts of practice. So now hitting this back button to go back to our main gradebook screen. Another thing that you can do is you can set your minimum levels from this screen, which is a really great tool. One of the best things our kids love about Mathletics is the live Mathletics game, which allows students to be competing with kids in their own class and kids around the world on math questions. However, we want to make sure that our students are competing with other kids at their same level, right? We don't want 7th and 8th graders competing against 1st graders online. So the way that we're able to ensure that is by changing their live Mathletics levels. So here's where we can change each student by just selecting here and make sure that each student is designated at the level that corresponds to their ability. And notice how where one student is has nothing to do with the next student. I like that. Now, if you scroll down here, you're going to notice sometimes you'll see a green arrow. And what that means is that it's just sort of alerting you. Mathletics is alerting you saying, hey, this kid is really doing a really great job in this level and should probably be moved to the next level. Okay, if you're unsure what these levels mean, you can send me an email and I can easily send you a PDF that details what each level means. There is another place where you can see what those levels detail here in Mathletics, and I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, so let's go back. Let's hit the back button. Again, remember, we're not hitting the back button in our browser. We're going to go back here to our main screen and head over to our next menu, which is called Reports. Let's go ahead and give that a click. Now, these reports here on the right, they're great. They're much more detailed. I would say, as a teacher, the only place I would probably use these is maybe in a parent-teacher conference, particularly with a parent who is much more math conscious. So that would probably be how I would use these. But for you as a teacher, hitting this main reports button is the place to go. So here's where you can get a lot of information in one screen. First, you can see how well your overall class is doing. And that's up here in the right-hand corner, sort of. It's going to default to your strengths. It's going to default to your class's strengths. And that's where you could see, okay, my class is doing really great. So these are the units, right, or the chapters of the math book. And these are the individual activities that my kids are doing really, really well in. If you wanted any specifics, feel free to hit this arrow and then it'll open up for you who's completed these activities, who hasn't completed it yet, and it'll highlight for you anybody who's kind of standing out. Okay, then if you click this weaknesses, here's where I feel like Mathletics is really great at allowing you to pinpoint your instruction. Because here's where I can see as a teacher what my kids need additional help in, right? So if I was going to review additional units, additional activities, additional pieces of content, here's where I could pinpoint my instruction. So I could come here to fraction wall labeling. I see that they're getting a 51%, so that could be better. I go ahead and I hit this arrow here, and that's where I'm able to see who's completed it, who hasn't. I'm also able to see who really needs that additional practice and who doesn't, right? So a child here that's getting a 90%, maybe I can divide the class into groups, get some small groups going, and really kind of work with the kids who are really struggling with this. I can also assign it again from here. I can also get that preview guide, that one pager, and I can get the preview activity, which again, remember with the question mark, gives me unlimited practice problems. Okay, so that's up here. Coming over here on the left-hand side where it says activity, it's going to default to activity mastery, which just allows me at a quick glance to see how my kids are doing overall. And so ideally as teachers, we want to see lots of yellow, right? Because yellow or gold means that my students are getting 85% and above. However, we know that pink is going to happen. You know, sometimes kids get less than 50%, and then blue is kind of a vague area because that's 84% to 50%. So if you just wanted to kind of pinpoint the pink or the red areas to kind of figure out, okay, what could I reassign to this child, or what could I work on if we were going to get some small groups going? How can I divide up these groups? So you can figure out how well these kids are doing by clicking on that pink area. So if I click on it, it's going to open up that one individual child, and it's going to open up his or her units first. So I can see the units here, and then I can see how well this child did in each chapter. And if I wanted to try and focus on a particular area, I can go ahead and click that pink area again. So I'm going to open up this particular unit. And then I scroll down some more and I can see, oh, well, I can see that this particular child hasn't completed most of the assignments in this area. And it was just this one place where the child is struggling. So if I click that pink area again, here's where I can reassign this activity. I can again get that one-pager activity guide, and I can preview the activity with those practice problems. So that means in Mathletics, I can assign work from two places. I can assign it from the results menu, the gradebook kind of area, and I can also reassign activities from the reports menu, from within the reports menu. Other things that I can get, another thing I can get within the reports menu is participation. So once I click on participation, actually I need to get out of this one particular student. So I'm going to hit this arrow right here that allows me to get out of this student and go back to the main class. Okay, now I have all the kids. So now under participation, I'm able to see how many points my kids are racking up, how many points they're getting in the activities, which is like the actual math book activities, versus how much time or how many points they're collecting in live Mathletics, which is the game. And it allows me to also kind of glance and see how many certificates they're earning. Live Mathletics is the next one. It allows me to see how my kids are doing in individual levels, what kind of accuracy they're getting, as well as how many questions per minute they're attaining. Coming over here, I'm able to see overall how my class is doing, how many certificates have been awarded, and how well they're doing in their fluency with live Mathletics, right? What is their accuracy in these levels? And just as a heads up regarding the certificates, the way that they work is when a student earns 1,000 points, and again, that's within the activities, not live Mathletics or any of the games, but when a child earns 1,000 points, they earn a bronze certificate in 1 week. So the way that that times out is it goes from 12:01 p.m. on Sunday all the way until the following Sunday at 12 p.m. So students can continue, through the weekend, and students definitely do that, right? A competition. So students can continue earning points all the way until Sunday at noon. And then once the student earns a bronze certificate, once they earn 5 bronze certificates, they get a silver certificate. And once they earn 4 silver certificates, they earn a gold certificate. All right, let's go ahead and go back out to the main screen here. I'm hitting that back button. All right, lessons. Lessons is a way for you to drag and drop different activities and ebooks, interactives, drag and drop them in, and then present them to your class in a presentation mode. I haven't found too many teachers using this, to be honest, but it is here for you if you wanted to do a presentation for your students. Okay, going back out. The ebooks are a really great tool because let's say you have a child who needs additional practice. You could come here and you can access all of this content. Another thing that's great is no matter what grade level you are, so if you're a 3rd grade teacher, you still have access to 6th, 7th, 8th grade, 12th grade content if that's what you wanted. Most of them will come with an answer key as well. So you have all these additional practice pages. This is also really great for the kids who sometimes they take off for a week, or you have parents who want additional practice during the summer, or maybe you have a resource teacher who needs additional material. All of that would be great. So that's what these ebooks could be used for. Another thing that Mathletics has been starting to add now are these performance tasks. So they're kind of like projects that the kids can work on versus these are just worksheets. Okay, going back. This next menu here is demonstrations view, which I think is really great. I think you could definitely teach from this because what this allows you to do is see what your students see. So now the screen that we're going to be looking at is the K-6 screen. The 7th and the 8th graders have a little bit more of a big kid screen, which I will show you. But the majority of us are going to be on this screen, which is, again, this is for K-6. So just to give you a lay of the land here, on the left-hand side, this is where students are going to be tracking the points that they're earning. And remember, that's for the whole week. They're racking up these points and they're trying to earn those bronze certificates. Then you have the activities. So this is like the math book. Remember, these are the chapters or the units. The student can click those units and open up to the individual activities. And then as a child completes these activities, the bars, the same yellow, blue, pink bars would show up here, the ones that we see in the reports menu. That's what the kids would see. Again, look how they also have the something easier and something harder tabs. So that's activities. Live Mathletics, again, that's the game. I do recommend you give it a shot, right? Try it out one time. It is really fun. Here's also where you can see what those live Mathletics levels mean. So remember I said I'm more than happy to email you a PDF, but if you would like to stay within Mathletics and view it for yourself, if you come here, see this little box right here, go ahead and give that a click and it's gonna open up and it's gonna show you the type of questions that are gonna be in these levels. So that's just a kind of quick way for you to see which level best pertains to each individual child. Okay, so let's go back out. We're gonna go hit this back button. That's gonna bring us back to the main screen. So we're gonna go ahead and go back into demonstrations so I can finish going over that student view with you. Okay, so that was live Mathletics. Moving on, we have problem solving. Problem solving has additional games for the kids. There is no competition or anything related to other kids in the class or other kids around the world. These are just games that allow kids to really work on their problem solving skills. So you're going to notice that some games are already listed here that they can easily access. But then if they wanted more, you're going to see this games to unlock. The way that kids unlock these games is by completing activities. So basically there's an incentive there, right? There's an incentive to complete the math book, right? Quote unquote, the math book. And as you're completing those activities, these games will begin to unlock. The next tab here is the concept search, which is basically an interactive dictionary. So if I go ahead and give that a click, the way that kids can use this is say they go home and they forget the official definition of something. Let's say a student goes home and forgets what angle means. The child can log into Mathletics, can go to the interactive concept search and search for angle. And then he or she can also determine how that definition is explained. So by clicking on these different sized dogs, it's going to allow the student to tailor that definition to the appropriate grade level. So if we kind of click this dog, it'll say you're 8 and up. The next size dog is for grades 6 and 7. Coming down here, we have grade 4 and up, 4 and 5. And then here is under 4th grade. And notice how this changed a little bit. It's showing me what the angle is. And then I can click this little arrow here. So it tells me how to make an angle, right? It's showing me. And it's showing me in more than one way. And now it says make a larger angle. It's allowing me to do it, so it's interactive. And now it's telling me, so now there's a little bit of an assessment, right? So now which scissors make the largest angle? So that's what the concept search is about. Going back to Mathletics, the next option here for students is Rainforest Math. And these are digital manipulatives that the kids can use to help them better understand a particular concept. So we're just going to click once so you can see they're all set up in this format, meaning every single grade has number, algebra, measurement, space. And then all the different pieces of content are just different depending on the grade level. But it just allows kids to work on additional skills. I find that teachers really love this. I would say the teachers who tend to love it the most tend to be our K to 2 teachers, but I've heard lots of really great positive feedback from Rainforest Math overall. Okay, coming back to Mathletics, times tables tunes are really just kind of hilarious music videos based on the times tables. So if you just kind of wanted to break it up a little bit and have kind of a funny song, feel free to select one of these and show them to your students. Okay, coming back to Mathletics. This down here, Spellodrome, it's grayed out because that's not a subscription that we have. Now let me show you the 7th and 8th grade screen. Okay, here's what the 7th and 8th graders will view in Mathletics. So notice it's much more big kid, right? And you're going to notice that the 7th and 8th graders have additional access to resources that the K to 6 kids don't have. Let's kind of go through. We can take a tour here. We can see progress, meaning so as the students are completing these assignments, this is going to show them that progress. They'll be able to see how many points they are racking up as well. It's just like the other system in that it's going to show you unit view or chapters of the math book. And so then when a student is completing something, they can give this a click to open up that unit. And then here are the individual assignments within that unit. So notice what these 7th and 8th graders have access to. Videos very prominently located so the kids can easily get access to a video tutorial of these concepts. Now, the younger kids do have access to videos. Again, that would be in that question mark, but it's not as prominently located. So once the child clicks the question mark, there would be a little video icon there that the child could click and access the video tutorial. But for the 7th and 8th graders, it's more prominently located. These students also have access to activities as well as the printable. So remember those ebooks I was showing you? Well, the K to 5 kids or K to 6 kids don't have access to that, but the 7th and 8th graders do. They also have access to a graphing calculator. So for some students, a graphing calculator is an expense that might be too much for them. It is nice to know that Mathletics gives that to students. And then the Mathletics dictionary is just the same as the K6 version. It's that interactive concept dictionary. So scrolling up, so we can go ahead and open up one of these activities just to get an idea of what the 7th and 8th graders are seeing. So if we give that a click, you can see it visually looks different. Again, more big kid, right? And if you'll notice that these kids also get access to a calculator right here by clicking on this icon. But if a child was confused, right, went home and forgot how to complete this, instead of there being a question mark like there is on the K to 6 side, the students would click this little I for information, and it would walk them through just the exact same way, walk them through unlimited amounts of practice problems. So we're going to pick a method. And then again, just hitting that little arrow here, it's walking the child through. And then once they get all the way to the answer, they can say another. They can get to another practice until they feel really comfortable. And once they're feeling good to go, then they can exit out and continue completing the activity and get credit for it. So I'm going to exit out of this. Okay, coming back to the student view here, the next option here is play. And the 7th and 8th graders don't have as many games or digital interactives like the K to 6 kids do, but they definitely have live Mathletics because that's the most popular game in this system. Okay, so that just gives you an overview of what the 7th and 8th graders see versus the K to 6 kids. Another thing that should be noted is anytime you assign an activity, when the student signs in, he or she will see a large bank safe over their entire screen. And then they will have the assignments that you assign listed. And what that means is the student is unable to access all of the games and the fun things that they want to do in Mathletics until they complete your assignment first. So there's sort of an incentive there with assigning tasks. It sort of forces the student to do your assignment first and then go back and do all the games they want. All right, our next menu here is Toolkit. So what you have access to are all the activities. You have access to the concept dictionary. You have access to different widgets, different video tutorials that you might want to present to the kids. And the workbooks are the exact same thing as ebooks. So that's what you have access to through the teacher toolkit. All right, coming back out under assessments, give that a click. Now, Mathletics has a new assessment that is really great. So initially you're going to get a kind of screen that's going to pop up and say, oh, do you want to check out our new assessments? Yes, we do. We're going to give that a click, and then it's going to take us to a different screen where we can schedule an assessment and view those results. So the way that you're able to assign your students an assessment is to just come up here, pick Common Core, then select your grade level, Then here are, again, unit view, right? Chapter view. So this is all based on Common Core. And so what you have to select as a teacher is which standard am I going to be assessing? And you can preview all of these. So let's say you just completed your whole geometry unit and you feel like you went through all the standards within geometry. So now you want to schedule an assessment to see how well your kids are retaining that. So go ahead and schedule it. Once you do, then go ahead and click on results up at the top of the screen. Once you do, you're able to view previous assessments that the students have already completed. So in order to see how they did, you come over here where it says view results, and you can see the result in two forms, either by student or by question. So I do like the by student view because what you're able to do is, one, see how well the student did. So I can see this student overall understood this particular standard 73%. And then I can come here to this little arrow and it'll drop down for me and it'll tell me, in order to make up that difference, assign the student these activities. So this is where the student is struggling. Then if I wanted to see more specifically how that student did, I could click his or her score and see exactly how he or she did on the individual questions. I, as a teacher, can maybe help pinpoint my instruction and maybe figure out whether this is a phrasing issue, maybe that he or she is not understanding specific terms, right? I might be able to get a better idea of why the student obtained that score when I'm looking at his or her assessment. Results by question allow you to see the entire assessment. It allows you to see which standard is being assessed with each question, and it allows you to see overall how your students are doing, whether or not they really understood that strand or not. And then when they don't, you can come here to the little arrow, and it'll drop down for you exactly which assignments you can assign to your kids to help them better understand that standard. Also, what's nice is you can export this. And so let's say you get these results, right? You work on where the students need additional help. You work on that over the next, say, week or the next 3 days or whatever. Then you assign this exact same test again. So these results can also be exported. So if you ever wanted to send them to a parent or send them to a tutor or something, or to the resource teacher, you have that as an option. Okay, this Manage tab up here, that just allows you to see which assessments you've assigned that have yet to be completed. And that does it for the new assessment feature. So we're going to go back to the Teacher Center. Coming back to the main teacher dashboard, we've gone over all the menus. This avatar up here can always be adjusted, and students, are definitely going to spend at least 10 to 15 minutes adjusting their avatar. Another thing that's nice about the built-in incentives that Mathletics has is as students gain points, they can then spend those points to fancy up their avatar in whatever way they want. All right, and I think that does it for Mathletics. That's it for our tutorial today. If you have any questions about this tutorial, our site, or resources, feel free to contact us by email or phone. Thank you, and God bless.